Hi beautiful ladies, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you about some things that you should consider when you are dating outside of your race. I don't really talk too much about dating on this channel, not for any particular reason, but dating is just a minor factor in life, if you will, but it's also a very important factor and it's something that should be done strategically and with great thought and intention if you are looking to date. And I do also tell Black exoticals to date outside of their race, not because I think that dating men outside of your race will make your life better. And as a matter of fact, if you're going to date outside of your race or just date in general, you need to not have this damsel in distress savior complex, if you will, where you think that the white man or the Asian man or the brown man is going to save you from the woes in your community. As I've said time and time again, it is your responsibility to set the course of your life. And that entails making a lot of strategic moves, being calculating, and being intentional about how you spend your time and who you spend your time with. And it's not with the intent to scam or deceive anyone, okay? A lot of relationship gurus, quote unquote, on the internet tell you that you need to finesse a man, you need to scam him. And while I do think that you need to benefit from your relationship, you shouldn't just be the one giving and not receiving in return, and not just financially. I also do not believe in manipulating and scamming people because very, very seldom does it turn out in your favor. And there are so many examples of Black women, exoticals, and non Black women getting hurt and getting exposed because they thought that they could finesse a man and get away with it. Especially if you're dating a man with means. Men with means, they either got that money from their family, so it's generational wealth, and so they were taught the tricks and the trades of life so that they can protect themselves and avoid being finessed. Or on the other hand, that man worked hard for what he had, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, working a really hard job and being able to survive that environment, or building a business for himself. There's a lot of strategy that goes into surviving and making money as a man. And so he's going to be privy to just general tricks in life, and that will translate to when a woman is trying to be deceptive. And a man of means is not going to just foolishly, kind of just carelessly be there and allow a woman to finesse him. So if that is your intent, this video is not for you. You know, look for tips and tricks for that elsewhere. But I'm talking to women who would like meaningful relationship and a healthy and prosperous one. And a part of that as a Black exotical entails being open to dating outside of your race. I've spoken at great length in multiple videos about the dangers of Black women staying in the Black community. I talk about divesting. And just as an FYI, divesting is not centered around men or dating outside of your race. It's about completely detaching yourself from the Black community, because the Black community in general is not a safe space for Black women, and that has been documented across multiple socioeconomic statuses. And as a matter of fact, there are women who choose to be child-free, and there are Black lesbian women who are also divested. So as someone who has dated outside of her race, I've never dated a Black man, to be honest, and that's just because of things that I identified pretty early on in life. I think I became even more privy to and understood the dynamics, the cultural and social dynamics within the Black community when I was in high school, and I was like, I don't want to subject myself to that. I also witnessed things from people in my family growing up, people in the church. And so I said, no, this is just not the life for me. Pretty much I was either made fun of or demonized, or people would laugh at the idea of me not dating Black men. But that's not something that I sought validation for. I kind of just did my own thing and kept it to myself, and people would kind of take note of my practices, if you will. But yeah, I chose and I identified pretty early on that Black women do not fare well for the most part when they date Black men. It's either, there's high cases of abuse, or it's having to be the breadwinner in the relationship. So you pretty much have a dependent where, like, even if you wanted to go 50-50, which I don't recommend, a lot of times the burden and the responsibility falls on the Black woman, where she's with an able-bodied, capable man and he's just not as driven as she is. But I've noticed that when you deal with men, and I noticed that this is a Western mentality, even increasingly so. I have encountered non-Black men as well who have this mentality, but those men were raised in the West. Whereas I've encountered, and from other women, other Black identified women that I've encountered, they've had similar success where they don't really have this mentality or have these conversations when they deal with men who have a Western background. And sometimes that just entails the guy was born in the East, so maybe China, Korea, India, somewhere in the Middle East, or he was raised here, but he stuck to and he saw very strong family dynamics and principles and values displayed in his family. And so by extension, he adopted those values. Some things to consider when you date outside of your race. You need to know that dating outside of your race is not a fail-proof method. There are non-Black men who do not have the best intentions when it comes to women, and even more so when it comes to dating Black identified women, just based on how Black identified women have been portrayed in the media. And so they kind of look at these stereotypes and think, oh, I'm going to hit the jackpot type of thing. And one of the things is just the hypersexualization of Black women. A lot of these non-Black men get with Black identified women and just Western women in general so they can have a good time before they get married, because they know that when they're married, when they get married, there are very high expectations and a lot of community scrutiny that he would have to be subjected to if he did not follow the guidelines of being a responsible and providing partner or husband and father. And a lot of them do not have premarital sex with their partners. So when they kind of want to get their experience or have their fun, they go to Western women. And in particular, they look for Black identified women, again, based on how Black identified women have been portrayed. And you can thank the likes of all of those artists that you kind of see in the media from like way back when in like the 80s, 90s to present day, Lil Kim, Superhead, all of those video vixens that kind of just left nothing to the imagination. And this is not to shame anyone's craft, like do you, but you do need to know that there are consequences for every action. And the biggest consequence is when you do not protect your image and you downgrade your image. People will play up on that, especially from other cultures, and try to use that to their advantage. A big example of this is how Black identified women are viewed in the East. So a lot of times, for example, when they travel to the Middle East or even to parts of Europe like Greece and Italy, a lot of them will just be walking on the road, minding their own business. They're not dressed provocatively or any type of way. And there have been countless Black identified women who have said that they've been propositioned for services from the locals because they have this belief from the media, from Western media, that Black women are sex workers, essentially, which is not the case for every Black woman, obviously. So this is why it's important to protect your image and detach yourself from degeneracy and ratchets, which also points to the importance, again, of divesting. Divesting from any woman who upholds an image that makes you look bad. Which leads me to my first point. When you are looking to date outside of your race as a Black exotical, you need to present yourself well. You need to challenge stereotypes, and you could say, oh, well, it's not fair, you know, these women don't represent me, I'm not like those girls. Well, you need to prove it. Otherwise, they're automatically going to look at you and assume that you are like one of those girls just because you share similar skin tone and phenotypes as the girls that they've seen on the internet and in the media. Okay? You need to present yourself well and show that you are a wife material, or at least a woman that should be taken seriously and respected Okay, respect is the very least that he can offer you, so that you'll help to filter out your prospects. You'll help to filter out men who are just there to waste your time and they just want to have a good time, and be able to filter men who actually genuinely want to have a meaningful relationship with you. You'll know, like, oh wait, she carries herself well, she's respectful, she has decorum, she has class. I can't treat her like how I see those girls on social media. I actually need to come correct. And a lot of times this can be alluring to non-black men because it creates polarity, especially if they're not familiar with classy black women and they see that, number one, you look good, you look exotic because you look different from what they typically are used to, and number three, you are smart and you're classy. That creates polarity and that will increase interest. So detach yourself from the ratchets. Don't speak like them. Don't style your hair like them. Don't dress like them. Dress differently. There are so many channels and pages on Instagram, TikTok that you can follow for inspiration and set yourself apart. Something, even if this is all that you do, you will find that you have better prospects because you carry yourself well. Secondly, you want to stay away from dusties. As I said before, dusties are present in every community, regardless of race. The only difference is that the black community seems to protect and coddle the dusties, whereas other communities, they will expose and shame and shun you if you are a dusty. Like, you'll be known in the community as a loser. A sign that a non-black man is a dusty is pretty much the same thing as what you would see in the black community. If he has no ambition, he has no drive, he doesn't work for anything, he doesn't have family values, just general degeneracy, a propensity for crime. He kind of relates to degenerate like actors, podcasters, rappers, and things like that. And he doesn't really know about life insurance, finances, family values, things, just basic things like that. He's a dusty. If he's lazy, if he has a criminal record and he's kind of just not really trying to change his image, he's a dusty. If he's violent and angry, he has substance abuse issues, like, he's a dusty. Just very basic things like that. If he tries to mask himself as a black guy, so they'll be like, the type of guys that try to act black, they'll like wear a do-rag and it's like, what are you doing? Or like they speak with like slang and ebonics. That's a dusty. Stay away from that. A good example of that is Travis Kelce. I don't think he wears do-rags, but like, he is black adjacent. Stay away from that. You're gonna get the same outcome. You can just ask Kayla Nicole, she'll tell you. Another thing to consider is that you should expect the same respect that he'd be expected to give a woman from his community. So, for example, in the South Asian community and in a lot of all Middle Eastern cultures, you are expected to court a young lady that you are interested in. You are expected to pay a bride price in most cultures, and you are expected to demonstrate before the family agrees to allow you to marry their daughter that you can take care of her. And a lot of times that involves showing financial statements, savings, showing your title to your property, things like that. Showing that you can, once I give my daughter to you, I want to make sure that she's secure and that she's going to continue to live, or at least have a better life than what she has in my home presently. That also involves not hypersexualizing her. A lot of couples, not all, and it's starting to increasingly change, but a lot of couples are at least celibate, and if they're not, he's not impregnating her before marriage. So you should expect the same thing from your partner. And if you're noticing that he comes from that type of culture, but he doesn't want to give you the same things, he kind of is like, oh, let's see how things go, but he doesn't want to commit or get engaged, or there's no timeline for marriage, and that's what you're expecting, chances are he's just looking to have a good time and you need to just move on. Because a lot of times these guys will trick you if you're not paying attention. It's not hard to be tricked. It's just that a lot of women choose to ignore the signs And so once they finally get their hearts broken, then they say, oh, yeah, I saw the signs, but I didn't want to pay attention. Chances are when he doesn't treat you with the same level of respect that he would give a woman from his community, a lot of times you'll see that behavior, but then like shortly after, he'll end up marrying a girl from his community. So if you don't want your heart to be broken, expect the same thing that a girl from his community would expect. Okay, this is just my 2 cents on the topic. Let me know if you have any experience dating outside your race. What are some things that you did to kind of set yourself apart or protect yourself when you navigated this world? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.